Call the meeting to order. Please stand. I pledge allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Heavenly Father, thank you once again for allowing us to come together for our great city. As always, give us the wisdom and knowledge needed to do the work our citizens have bestowed on us. Give strength and hope to those in need, and we especially pray for our citizens, that they may stay safe, cool, and healthy. In your precious name we pray. Amen.
Amen.
First thing on the agenda, obviously, is to approve the minutes. If you all had a chance to look those over, I'll entertain a motion.
I'll make that motion.
Motion made by Mr. Bounds,
I'll second.
second by Mr. Ware. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Same with the approval of claims. If you all had a chance to look those over, I'll be entertaining a motion for that.
I'll make a motion to approve.
Motion made by Mr. Ware,
Second.
second by Jose. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Do we want to do the public hearing thing first? On the Superior Ag?
We could.
So I think last time there was a motion that as far as us donating the property to the Superior Ag for that little piece of property, it's kind of in the middle of a street, middle of their property. And there was a public notice set out that there would be a public hearing this evening on the 14th. So with that, I'll open up the public hearing for that. Is there anyone that wants to talk about the petition?
Again, to refresh your memory, this is a little bit of an alley that for some reason didn't get vacated. That's in the middle. It's kind of an island in the middle of their Superior Ag's property on Main Street in Huntingburg. And they filed a petition at last meeting, at our last council meeting. A notice was given of a public hearing tonight. It was published on June 3, more than 10 days prior to this meeting. And today is the time and place set for a public hearing on that petition.
And hearing nothing?
Hearing nothing, somebody may move to close the hearing.
I'll make a motion to move the public hearing.
Motion to
Dane
close.
Okay.
Motion made by Mr. Ware,
I'll second it.
second by Mr. Bounds. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Now we have to
We
grant
need
it.
an ordinance number for an ordinance vacating an undeveloped alley surrounded by property of Superior Ag Resources Cooperative, Inc.
It'd be 2022-20.
Unfortunately, you can introduce and number this tonight, but since we don't have 2/3 majority here, we'll have to hold it over, as we will all ordinances tonight, for a second reading at the next meeting.
Okay.
But you may introduce and
Well, we
number
can
too.
introduce it.
Yeah, motion to introduce.
Motion to introduce.
Mhm.
That's second.
Second by Jose. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Introduced. That's all we can do tonight.
Right.
The next thing on the agenda basically is talked about the last time we amended, added amendment number 4, addendum number 4 to the policy procedure manual for the abuse prevention. There is a correction that we made on that, and the reason for that correction had to do with the police department. The correction basically states, if I read the general conduct of that area, it said employees must not use harsh or inappropriate language, disparaging punishment, or any type of restraining device in the name of behavioral management. The police department found that to be not into what their best interest would be if they need to use something to restrain somebody for their own safety and things. So we added, provided that use of appropriate restraining devices are permitted by law enforcement in the discharge of their lawful duties when deemed necessary. So they were all okay with that terminology, so we just need to basically revise that last addendum. Is that correct?
That's correct, just by a motion on the minutes. You adopted it by a motion on the minutes last time, and this would just be an amendment to add that language.
So I'll entertain a motion for that.
I'll make the motion to amend the
The addendum?
previously, the addendum,
Okay.
yeah.
Addendum number 4, okay. So
I'll
there's a
second.
Motion by Bounds, second by Ware. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Next thing I have is that Cole Meyer has asked to return back to the fire department. He was one of our police officers that at one time decided that he didn't want to be a volunteer fire department man anymore. Now he's had second thoughts, he wants to come back, so I just need the approval from the council that we can rehire him back as a volunteer fire department member.
Well, I know Cole,
Yeah.
and I know he'll do a good job.
I'm sure he will,
So-
yes. He got wrapped up in something, so.
Yeah. I'll make that motion.
Motion made by Mr. Bounds,
Second.
second by Mr. Dubon. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Like sign, okay. Which brings us to our next public hearing. So we're opening it up to Jenny Deerwester, correct?
That's correct, very good.
Okay. And I think last time we brought up about the housing redevelopment project that we were gonna do, so I'll let you have the
All right,
floor.
this is just a sign-in sheet for everyone here to sign that you are in attendance of the meeting. Today is June 14th, 2022, at 5:37 PM. We are in the Huntingburg City Hall. Can everyone hear me okay?
That's it.
This meeting was advertised in compliance with Indiana Code IC 5-3-1. The meeting was advertised in the Du Bois County Herald on May 26, 2022. The purpose of this meeting is to receive comments and/or concerns regarding the city's owner-occupied rehabilitation project that took place in the corporate areas of Huntingburg. The project provided assistance to 13 housing units. The total grant amount from the Indiana Housing and Community Development Authority was $315,000. The city provided $39,000 that served as matching funds for the project. The type of work that was completed on the housing units included windows, roofing, heating, plumbing, electrical, AC, and other items. We had two contractors, one from Bloomfield who completed one house, and another contractor from Anderson who completed work on 12 houses. All homes have been completed, and part of those homes were inspected probably later in 2021 by Indiana Housing, their contracted inspector, and any deficiencies that were identified have been corrected and turned back into the state, and all those homes are fine. And we have requested state inspection for the remaining houses, and the state is still working on scheduling those, so we will be having those probably within the next month or so. And again, if there's any deficiencies that they find on the homes, then the contractor will go back and fix those, and then it should all be completed. Are there any comments, questions, or concerns in regards to the project that's been completed?
No, I don't. Anybody?
You think this will be offered again down in the future?
Yes and no. Not in the way that this program was structured. Since this was funded, Indiana Housing has discontinued the program, and the Office of Community and Rural Affairs is currently doing a pilot program for this, and it's structured a little differently. They're just looking at 5 components of housing units, which would be a roof, electrical system, heating and air conditioning, a water heater, and accessibility into the home, so just a ramp. And basically they're looking at those items because they are not going to be addressing any lead-based paint issues. So
That's through Okra, right?
that is through Okra. Right now, we have not heard if there's going to be any funds available for 2022. If they are, they will still be under what they're calling their pilot program. But we've lobbied pretty heavily that they continue that program in the future.
Okay, great.
Mhm. Any other questions? Not, then I'll close the public hearing at 5:40. And I just want to say too, it was a pleasure working down here. We met so many nice people, and everyone was great to work with.
Good, well,
So,
thank you for that.
I talked to one of the residents that you guys worked on their house, and he's very appreciative.
Good,
of the
good.
things that happened for him.
Good, I'm glad. We haven't heard anything from anyone, so I always
So
say.
that's a good thing
No
sometimes.
news is good
No news
news,
is
so.
good, yeah, he appreciated it.
Okay, well, thank you all very much.
But I
Thank
think
you.
the city of Huntingburg is also very appreciative of your
Appreciate what you
efforts
do.
and your willingness
Exactly.
to administer this grant on behalf of the citizens.
Well,
Thank you very much.
Thank you. All right.
Thanks, Jenny.
Thank
Appreciate
you.
it. Thank you.
Thanks.
Okay, Phil?
We have 3 ordinances that need to be considered tonight regarding our utility rates. For as long as I can remember, there has been imposed on utilities a utility receipt tax equal to 1.4% of our gross revenues. And in 2022, the Indiana legislature repealed the Indiana utility receipts tax and instructed all utilities, both publicly owned and municipally owned utilities, to revise their rates to remove from the rate structure that utility receipts tax. And therefore, we have 3 ordinances, one for the electric utility, one for the gas utility, and one for the water utility, which would remove out of our rate structure that the amount that was used to collect the utility receipts tax. The actual reduction is actually, although the tax rate is 1.4%, our rate reduction is 1.39%, because we had some customers that were exempt from taxes, like municipalities and churches. So the calculation done by Otto Krohn and Associates came out to 1.39%. There's no requirement for a rate hearing on these because the legislature mandated that we reduce our rates by this amount, and the legislature also mandated that notice be given to the customers for the next 2 months with our utility rates, with our utility bills. So
Do we have to introduce and then?
we would just introduce and number, we could start with the electric utility rate adjustment, whatever number that would be.
It'd be 2022-21.
So I need a motion. Can we do it all at the same time?
We'd do one at a time.
Okay, so then we need a motion to introduce.
Introduce and number.
I'll make a motion to introduce.
Motion made by Mr. Ware to introduce 2022-21.
Which is the electric utility rate reduction.
I'll second it.
Second by Mr. Bounds. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
We'll hold that over for consideration and adoption at the next meeting. Then the next ordinance would be for the natural gas utility rate reduction.
2022-22.
Once again, I'll entertain a motion to introduce.
I'll make the motion to
Motion by
introduce.
Mr. Bounds.
Second.
Mr. Dubon, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Held over till next meeting. And the next one would be for the utility receipts, gas rates.
2022-.
Water, actually, water would be the
Oh,
last
water?
one. Yeah,
Yeah.
gas
Okay,
was
what-
this.
gas was.
Gas was
okay.
2022.
Water will be 2022-23.
And I'll make the motion to
Introduce.
introduce that ordinance as
I'll
well.
second it.
Okay, motion made by Mr. Bounds, second by Mr. Ware, all in favor?
Aye.
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 Opposed? Okay.
And do you know what that tax is for? I mean, what did they do with it, or?
It's whatever the Indiana legislature decided they wanted to do with it. It went into the general treasury of the state of Indiana. And it's part of the legislature's tax refunds that of course, the state had a significant surplus the last couple of years, and
Perfect number.
they've committed to return those some of those surpluses back to the taxpayers, and this is one way they're doing it. There are some other ways that are going to be considered, as you probably know, later this summer.
That's good. Well, it's good timing for it. I'll tell you that.
And the last thing that was on the agenda was for the supplement to the Code of Ordinances, but we're going to wait until next meeting to do that anyway, because we have to
Okay,
wait.
you could introduce it if you wanted to, but that's.
Well, we'll just, might as well
Okay.
do the whole thing at the same time. Clerk Treasurer, anything?
Nope.
Any other items for the council?
One question.
Okay.
I saw Jasper's opening their swimming pool in these hot days during the evenings. Is there anything we could look into possibly doing that?
I can look into it, if we get people to work.
Yeah, because it's, they advertised it today. I guess they're opening it up today at 4:30.
Okay.
To help out the relief of the heat.
I'd like to maybe ask for some guidance from Phil on this, but it's been suggested that we have a executive session regarding a discussion on the 405 North Main property to discuss, I guess, for consideration of possible investors to know what the city is, what's the word?
Guidelines?
The guidelines maybe, but I know that there's things that can be done as far as like restrictive covenants on a building. I know we did this on the property across the street and repealed that for like the third floor units several years back when it was brought to the council. It's not a discussion that I would feel real comfortable having without having the ability to talk about it before it went public, the ability to talk about it so that we are all kind of on the same page before we put numbers out there for people.
Yeah, as you know, there's very limited purposes for which executive sessions can be held. They're statutorily set, and you can't deviate from them. The closest thing would be you may call an executive session for strategy relating to the purchase of real estate before a purchase agreement is signed. It doesn't apply to the sale of real estate because on the sale of real estate, there's a statutory procedure you have to go through. In my opinion, I don't believe there's any way that you could legally call for an executive session to discuss conditions that you want to place on the sale of real estate. I mean, you're authorized to do that. You can decide on that. You can even have a committee to formulate those conditions and bring it back to the council to discuss at an open meeting to approve. But there's no provision in the law that will allow an executive session to discuss placing conditions on the sale of property.
Okay. So a committee.
Only the acquisition, only the purchase of property before a purchase order is, I mean, a purchase offer is signed.
Okay.
So a committee could be formed to do that.
Yes, yeah.
It's just that it couldn't be a majority of
I got you.
council members.
There's gonna
Yeah.
be two of us on there, I guess.
Right.
So, I think we want to do one. Like-
Yeah, so what needs to be done then if we wanted to make an official committee? Is there some legal
Well,
requirement that we?
We just make
You
a
just,
vote.
the mayor could appoint a committee, or the council could appoint their own committee to look into those issues.
Okay.
Well, so, and
You could make a motion tonight to appoint a committee.
Could, yes.
You've got enough to
Yeah.
support it, so.
okay. Then, and at some point, I guess there's some kind of public record that needs to be made as far as who's been selected to serve on that committee. Is that correct?
Well, I mean, you would appoint the committee. Either the mayor could appoint the committee and announce it to the council at a council meeting, if it's a committee of the council, or the council could do it at a meeting like tonight or the next meeting or whatever, but you would announce it at a public meeting.
So but at that public meeting, we would have to know who we're appointing.
That's
what you're
correct.
saying, yeah,
Right.
okay. So,
And there'd be guidelines, it's just one sub of how many people you want on the committee and things of that kind,
Yeah.
obviously, so. But it could be done.
Okay. I think it needs to be done.
yeah,
I
we
think-
want to get something
As
decided.
long as we got something
We're gonna
set
do it.
up for, and then maybe it won't work for the people who's interested in this. At least we got some guidelines to go by, and I think that's what that gentleman that was here last time was talking about. Then people know, if they want to come look at the house or bid on the house, here's the guidelines that they have to go by. I like to have it all done, set, and have it done before anybody does that, or if there's anybody here to.
Well, you want me to, you want me to form a committee and then basically talk to whoever wants to be on that committee and then basically put it out there for the next council meeting, and this is the committee? I mean, we can.
Yeah, you understand, unless we're selling to a not-for-profit, 501c3 organization, non-profit, there is a procedure for selling real estate that the city owns, and the procedure is to have it appraised by 2 appraisers, and then to advertise it for public bids, and to receive public bids. And you must receive at least the appraised
Average
value.
of the two. Average of the two, right?
Yeah, I think it's average of the 2, yeah.
I think it is.
So, I mean, you don't have the leisure or the privilege of just going out and negotiating a sale with somebody. I mean, but you can advertise the property for sale with conditions attached to it.
No matter who buys it then, right?
Right. Now, you also must keep in mind that is I think it's in the downtown mixed-use district, and there's significant conditions on the use right now. So whoever the committee is may want to be familiar with what the limitations are, the restrictions of use are on the downtown mixed-use zoning district.
And then would
Because
Mr. Lake be aware of that then?
Pardon me?
Would Mr. Lake be knowledgeable for that?
Oh, yeah.
Yes.
Well, he'd be a good
Yeah.
candidate for it, I would imagine, too.
Right, yeah, he should be on the committee, I would think, if you're gonna do that, and so.
Okay.
So I want to be sure that there are people on the committee that haven't already made their mind up as far as what they want to see happen there. You know, so I'd like to be on that committee if it's possible.
So you haven't made your mind up yet?
No.
No, just-
I want to make sure there's people on a committee that have an open mind about that building's possibilities. Not just that there's, you know, a majority of people that want to see it torn down and that's all that ever gets talked about. I'm looking for people on a committee that can try to figure out ways to make it work. You know, what kind of use could there be, so that those, and I don't know what would happen, Phil, if you, first of all, can the appraisals that we already did be still used?
Yeah, I think as long as they're, within a year, they're considered valid appraisals.
So we wouldn't have
But
to have-
we do have those two appraisals.
Would it not have to be adjusted to what our conditions were?
But, yeah,
Because
yeah, but
if
if
we're
you're
taking property away from a property, the appraisals are no good anymore, so.
If you're going to reduce the size of the lot, or you're
Right.
going to place conditions that weren't on the property when we purchased it, yeah, that would affect the appraised value.
Yeah. So you almost have to wait till you had the conditions drawn up before you would appraise it.
I think so.
So that would be what the committee.
Because it could significantly affect the value.
Okay.
And there may be some decision, some desire to subdivide that lot and not use it all for development, use part of it for parking or whatever, in which case you'd need to know that in advance of appraisal also.
Yeah.
So do you want me to form the committee, or do you want to give me information and I'll do that, or do you want the council to form the committee? It doesn't matter to me.
I hadn't really thought about it that far ahead. I just.
Well, let's think about it, we'll table it, but then we can get together and talk about it. And then
Okay.
we can do something by the next committee, next council meeting.
All right.
Make sense?
Yeah, we can
Okay.
do that.
Anything else? I have two things. First of all, if anybody's not seen it, the mural is done behind Current Blend. It's great. We've had meetings, we've had people, they're excited about it. We're going to actually try to have a dedication on the fourth Friday of this month, where IU and Martha, who is actually part of that deal, is coming down here. She's going to make a plaque and things up, have the kids' names on it that contributed to that. And the next thing is that obviously if you've driven down 4th Street, you know our street sound music is up and running. We're still tweaking it, but it's working. So that's a positive thing. Actually, we had a meeting today for about a half hour, 45 minutes, going through how to do certain things with it and stuff like that. So I've had nothing but compliments from the time that we first turned it on Thursday, walking up and down the street. Everybody's excited about it, so that's a good thing. Other than that, I have nothing else. Does anybody else have anything? Any citizens have anything? Not just the one citizen? With that, I'll entertain another motion
I'll make a motion to adjourn.
to adjourn.
Adjourn.
Yeah, I'll
Motion
second
made to
it.
adjourn.
I'll second it.
Second, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? So be it. Thanks, everybody.
Thank you.